Okay, folks, so now we'll start. So hello all, I'm Ayush Tiwari. I'm second year civil engineering BTech from IIT Madras, and today's session will be an introduction to Git and GitHub. So first we'll be discussing about Git and then like how to work with Git for absolute beginners, and then we'll move on to GitHub, like what are the utilities of GitHub and how it is important for software development. So talking about Git is basically a version control system that is of a very huge utility for software developers. So software developers from all around the world basically use a Git as a version control. Obviously, you have other version control systems also, but Git is the most popular among them. So, so the scope of today's session would be first of all getting the Git, that for people who haven't used Git before, so they can install Git and in their system. Then we'll move on to basic Git and like how to use Git, what actually Git does, and why it is so important. And then we'll move on to some advanced features of Git. And at the very end of this session, we'll move towards using GitHub. Okay. So first thing is, what is Git? So Git is basically a version control system. So what can Git actually do for you is it can undo changes, whatever you do in your code. It has a searchable history. So for example, if you're working on a project and if you had made some changes today, if you have, and every day you are making some changes. So Git keeps a record of what changes you made in your project and how you can revert back to those changes. And then it also simplifies collaboration between a team. So if you are working on a team of 10 developers, then you can then Git makes it easy for all of you to work on the same project. We'll see all of these in details. So Git basically avoids the problem of bad version control. I'll show you how. So many of you might encountered this before, that at times it happens that uh, you make multiple instances of a single file and then you just name it like file number 1, file number 2, file number 3, and ultimately it makes a lot of mess in your code. So here you can see there are multiple images and every image has a somewhat same name. So it's very difficult to differentiate that which is the latest version, which is the like which version belongs to which time. So using Git, you can keep a record of whatever changes you made and when you made those changes, so that later on you have a very much documented sense of how your project progress went on. And yeah, you can see this is a very poorly written code. So it so happens that people just comment out some snippets inside the code. So just casually, but when you use Git, you don't have to do these kind of thing, because Git keeps a record of everything, every single line of code that you have written. So first of all, Git is a command line utility. So what I mean by command line utility is, I can show you a demo. So for example, anything or any system that you can use on your command line is a command line utility. So Git is also a command line utility. So let's see what is GitHub. So GitHub is basically an online interface for Git. So you can say that GitHub is a kind of a Git running on a server for you. So it is available for you to interact with it 24/7. And what are the functionalities that GitHub gives you is hosting your code online. So you can even host your websites on GitHub, your static websites on GitHub, and GitHub comes with a lot of collaboration tools. So if you're working on a team, if you're working with a group, or if you have your own company, then you can make a GitHub organization and then work on different projects at the same time. So it's easy for you to handle what task do you want to give to each developer, so that without much conflicts, those developers can work effectively on a project. And then GitHub has a very large community of developers. So basically GitHub is a kind of social platform for software developers, where you can interact with other kind of developers who are working on similar projects and get help from them. So So let's start off. So the very first thing is how you install Git in your system. So these are the links that the slide has provided. Towards the end of the session, I'll be sharing these slides with you. So you can directly go to these links and download the Git for either Mac, Windows, or Linux. Linux generally comes with Git installed, but still, if you need to download it, you can download it from here. And then let's see how to use Git. So you can check that you have correctly installed Git by typing Git command to the terminal. So the first thing is you need to tell Git about yourself, because as I told you that Git is supposed to be meant for a team to work. And if a team is working on a project, then obviously some part of the project some member has contributed, some part of the project another member has contributed. So you need to compile down all the changes and keep a record that what person did what changes to the project and what was the time that he did the changes, so that you can maintain a kind of a version record. So so that's why Git needs to know your identity. So Git associates your name and email with every change you make, as I told you. So using these two commands, you can tell Git about what is your name and what is your email address. So this is how you do it. You can type on this command on your terminal, and then you can configure it. And you just need to do this thing once for the very first time when you're using Git on your machine. After that, Git remembers that, okay, this person with this email, and every new repository that you make or every changes that you make, it is automatically associated with this name and email. So let's move on to basic Git. So Git is structured into something called a repository. Inside a repository, you have various things that you can do. So I'll repeat this point that Git basically is used to maintain whatever code you have written. So if you have a project and you have like lines and lines and lines of code, it is not possible for a single person to keep a track record of whatever changes he made and when he made those changes. And obviously you don't remember that whatever changes you have made the 1 month before into your code, and you are continuously working on a project, but certainly you realize some at some point you realize that you have made some mistakes and now you want that code back. But if you don't have Git installed, if it's very difficult for you to keep a record of whatever changes you have made. So at that time, Git is a very helpful thing for you, because you can revert back to the previous changes. So uh, just to give an example, I'll tell you, like, for example, if you are creating a big application like WhatsApp, and hundreds of if for say that 50 developers are contributing to the same project, and each developer makes some changes, and that's how a very big project goes. But you realize that somewhere some developer has made something wrong into the project, and now it is affecting the task of other developers also. So how are you going to keep a record that what developer made the mistake, and what is actually the mistake into the whole code? Obviously, you're not going to read all the thousands of lines of code again. So you will take help of Git, and you'll revert back to the point where the previous stable version was there. So for example, if WhatsApp releases a new version today, and the new version comes up with some kind of a bug. So, and the bug is not, WhatsApp is not able to resolve that. What is the bug? So now it's a kind of emergency for WhatsApp to bring the stable version back. So obviously they are not going to change the code and then bring it back to the previous version. They will use a version control, which controls that, which has the record that what was the WhatsApp's previous version. So using that, WhatsApp can revert back to the previous application and then publish it for us. So that is the utility of Git. And now let's see what is a repository. So Git repository is basically the working place for Git. So if you are working on a project if you are writing down some code, obviously you are doing it inside a folder. So that folder is a kind of workplace for your project. And Git repository is the same folder that I'm talking about. So for example, if you are working on a website and you have some HTML, CSS and JavaScript files inside a folder, and you can install Git inside that folder to make it a Git repository. And once you make it a repository, then Git handles every kind of changes that you make in your code. So that's why Git repository is just a folder on your computer, nothing complex. And whatever code that you write, whatever files that you have, and whatever assets like images or anything that you keep in that folder, which you call the Git repository now. So Git keeps a record of all the versions of that folder. So for example, if you have two images and one text file, and then you add two more images and then you move two more text files, then Git keeps a record that whatever file was added when, and what was the previous version of the folder and what is the current version of the folder and things like that. So Git keeps a track record of everything. So the thing is that how do you make a repository? So you can do two things. Either you can make a new repository, or you can copy a repository from an existing repository. So as I told you, repository is just a folder on your local system. So let's see how to make a new repository. So you can use the command git init to make a new repository. And like this, you just need to type it on your terminal, and then you will have the repository made inside the current folder that you are in. So mind that currently I am inside the folder which I want to make a repository. So for example, this is the repository folder and I want to make it a Git repository. Then I need to go inside that folder and then type the command git init. And then the current folder becomes the repository. So this is the process that how you make a new repository. So mkdir, it is used in Windows to make a new folder. And then using cd folder, you can go to that folder. And then inside the folder, you can put in this command git init to make it a Git repository. Now if you already have a Git repository, or if someone has a Git repository, then you can also clone that repository. So clone is very much equivalent to just copy whatever is inside that repository, copy it to your system. So it's something like making a copy of a folder and keeping that folder with you, so that the changes you make in this folder does not affect the changes that done in the original folder. So like this, you can do that. And to clone a repository, then also you have two options. One option is to clone some repository that is present inside some server that is live 24/7. So you can clone that repository from that server, either using SSH or using HTTPS, a link that is generated. So for example, if someone has a Git repository on GitHub, then you can clone it from GitHub to bring it to make a copy of that repository and keep it in your local computer. Or the other way is that if you already have a repository in your local system, you can also make a copy of that repository. So you can just type git clone and then give the path of the repository, the absolute path, and then it will make a copy of that into your current directory. So git clones, it makes a new folder in your current folder, and then when you go inside that folder, you'll find all code and whatever stuff was there. So as I told you, the path can be a repository on your computer or a link to a remote repository. We'll discuss this remote repository thing once we discuss about GitHub. So like this, you can clone it. First go into the folder and then git clone and then give the path. And let's see a new command called status. So as I told you, you have initialized a repository. You have a new repository created, and then you are now working on a project, and then now you need to keep a record of whatever you are doing, whatever progress the project is making. So for that, you can use a command called Git Status. Let's see how to use it. So for example, if you have a text file called readme.md, so you have hello world written there. So you can use Git status to see that whatever progress is made on the project. So first it was a empty folder, and then inside that you made a new file called readme.md, and inside that readme file you have some text called hello world. And then when you type in Git status, so Git will tell you that first of all, you are on the branch master. After it will tell that what is your commit, and then it will tell whatever files are there that you have not saved it. So basically the file have not entered the staging area. So let's talk about staging and committing now. So staging is a kind of, it's a buffer area. So for example, if you have added new file into your repository, and now you want to add a checkpoint to this point. Checkpoint is basically a kind what you call as commit. So it's like uh, you want to save this current version for later reference. So first you add your files to a staging stage. And what staging is like, it combines the related changes. So whatever changes you have made in your repository, so it just compiles down everything, and then it understands, okay, these files are the new files and these file needs to be added to the previous version. Okay, so the files are taken to the staging area, and after that, when you commit the staging, commit the file, commit inside the repository, then whatever files you had in the staging area, it makes a commit there. So basically, it adds those files to the previous version, and then you have a new version of the repository there. So for example, if you had version 1 of WhatsApp, and then the developer comes up with some new files or some new features and new lines of code, and he types the code there. So first he will add those lines using git add command. So using git add, he can put those new lines of code into the staging area, and then he'll commit those changes to bring that code and make a new version of WhatsApp there. So first it was WhatsApp version 1, then he added new files, then he added after adding the files went to staging area, and once he committed, then a version 2 was kind of Git now remembers the version 2, that this is something new that have come. So whatever a commit stores is first, it stores a comment that obviously when you have a version, you need to have some kind of a description of whatever is there. So for example, if you had WhatsApp version 1, if you have WhatsApp version 2, you need to have a description that whatever extra is there in WhatsApp version 2, or describe that why version 2 actually exists. So you need to have a descriptive comment so that other people can see what you have done. And then you have metadata associated with it. And then you have the obviously whatever the new lines of code you have added, obviously you are going to have that in version 2. And then you have a commit ID associated with it. So every commit or every version of your project, it has a commit ID associated with it so that you can refer to it later on. So later on, if you want to say that, okay, you want the version of WhatsApp that was there in 2013, then you will have a commit ID associated with it. You can use that commit ID to go back to that version. So that's how you add a file to a staging area. So using Git status, you can see that whatever files are currently not added into the staging area, and then you can add that file to the staging area. And so like this, git add and the name of the file. So after the file is added to the staging area, then you see that the color of the file comes in green color. So it shows that the file is added into the staging area, and you now need to commit the file to make a new checkpoint here. So a file can obviously be a file, a list of files, or a folder. So you can also add multiple files at the same time. So if you want to add a single file, you need to write git add and then the name of the file. But if you want to add multiple files, then you can write the name of the file with space separated. Or if you want to add a folder, you can just add the name of the folder. Let's see now what git commit does. So as I told you, git commit basically takes all the code from the staging area and put it after the previous version, and then it creates a new version of the inside the repository. So this is how you do a commit. First you see git status. So mind that the readme file was already added. So first you need to add, then only commit will work. So and then you can git commit. So once you commit, first you need to either you can write a message directly to the command, or it will open your command line text editor to write down a message and then associate the message with the version. Version is basically the commit. Associate the message with the commit. So it launches a text editor to write a message, or also you can write it directly using a command is there for that. So let's see step by step how to commit a file. So first you need to obviously change a file or do something, write some more code there. And then after you can see git status to see whatever changes you did or whatever files you added or whatever files were modified. And then after you can add the file to put the file into the staging area. And once the file in this is in the staging area, then you can commit the file to write it to the git history. So once you have committed, then the file, then it creates a new version of the project there. So later on you can whenever you want, you can access this version as a whole thing. So git also has other commands to make it easier. So for example, if you have committed some xyz, if you have added some xyz file, and now you realize that the file wasn't supposed to be added. So you don't want that file to interfere with your normal flow of the project. So what you are going to do, you can bring that file back from the staging area. So once you have added, the file goes to the staging area. After the staging area, it will go to the you will commit the file and it will be saved as a full version. But if you don't want that file to be saved, if you want to unstage that file, bring it back from the staging area, then you can use this git reset command. So uh, this explains this. So for example, if you add a file and then you see that the file is added. So just a second. So this readme.md file, first of all, it's not added. Then you add this file, it goes to the staging area. Then you see that the file is in the staging area, but now you want to bring it back. So you can use this git reset head and then the name of the file that you want to reset. So this will bring the file back from the staging area to, it will not delete the file, but it will unstage that file. And then git check out the name of the file. It removes the unstaged changes. So whatever changes you have made after the previous commit, and till now you have not added it, you have not sent it to the staging area, then you can use git checkout in the name of the file to remove the unstaged changes. And then git diff command, it is used to show the unstaged changes, and it will show it line by line changes, whatever the changes you have done and you have not added it yet. So like this. So it will show that, okay, you have added some lines and you have deleted some lines like this. Okay, so let's talk about how Git stores your history of your project. So obviously Git is as good as your history. So if you don't commit changes regularly, if you don't make versions of your project, then Git is kind of useless for you. So for example, if I had made just one commit and now I'm working on my project without committing down the details, without committing the details, and then my project is kind of, it's messed up because I'm not able, because when I revert back, I'll go back to the very first change inside my project. So I want to make sure that whenever I complete a very small task and then I add my files and then I commit my files, so that it is saved as a new version of my project. So the more versions you have, the better it is for you in the future. And obviously Git is only as good as your commits. So if you have very messy commits, if your commits are not actually working. So for example, if you have WhatsApp version 1 and then you add some new features to version 2, you don't check that the version 2 is working correctly or not. And basically the commit is kind of, it have a lot of bugs and all. And then you start working on the same project, then obviously the end project is not going to be a very good thing. So let's see. So commit builds up a history. So your previous versions are described only by your commits. So you need to make sure that your commits are sensible. And when you are going to view them in the future, then you are able to understand that whatever changes are made and like what is the significance of this version. So this is a very bad kind of history. So it shows that you have added something and then you write the commit message as some please help and then some sorry, then something. So when first of all, if some other person is going to view your code, obviously he's never going to understand that whatever changes you have made and what have you added or what have you removed or what have you resolved in a commit. I cannot figure out that what this person has done in this version. So this version is basically useless for me. I don't know how to use this version. And this is a good kind of history. So this person have added a logging thing for cost calculation. So he had clearly specified that this version has something additional compared to the previous version. And then like this comments are pretty much clear so that some other developer, if he sees your code, if he wants to work on your project now, then he can understand that whatever you have done. So like this, so always make sure that first of all, your commits are descriptive. Then your commits should be the vocabulary should be the language that is used. It should be easily readable and not very much complex a thing, because the commit message is supposed to be very straightforward to describe whatever you have done or whatever you have removed in the project. So whatever modification you have done, make it very clear in the commit message. So this is a convention that is generally followed, that okay, you always add a README with a title and a summary. So a README file is supposed to be a text file that have whatever or all description of your project. So whatever your project is supposed to do, or if it's a commercial product, then it has the necessary details about your project. So first of all, you need to write in present tense and then imperative mood. So that is something that is followed. Every developer follows it because it's easy to the commit messages are then easy to understand. And you need to remember this, that commit should sound like commands. So I have told you everything, that you need to describe whatever you have done. And then obviously one line is not enough to describe a very big project. So I was giving an example of WhatsApp. So obviously if you add a new feature, then one line is not enough to describe that feature. So you need to write a summary kind of thing, or at times you might need to write some detailed text as well. So like this, you may need to write your commit messages. So adding a big commit isn't an issue. It is not at all an issue, because the more descriptive your commit message is, the better it is for other people to understand. And then let's see a new command called log. So git log is used to show the history of your project. By history, I mean the previous versions of the project. Let's see. If you type git log, then what it will show is, it will show you the previous commits. So you can also boil these down to previous n number of commits. But if you just type git log, then it will show all the commits from the very first commit. And then each commit has the name of the author, whoever is committed it, and then email, and then date and time when he made the commit, and then the commit message that comes with it. So the log, as I told you, it prints the commit ID and the name such as author and email, and then the commit message on the terminal. So basically log is used for getting a description of whatever happened in the past. It does not show you that what files are changed, what code is changed, and all this thing. So it does not show that. It just shows the overview of whatever a commit has included. So git log stat, it adds the files changed. So and git log patch, it also adds the whatever lines you have changed in your code. And if you want to see a history of a file, then you can use git log follow, and you can give the name of the specific file. So it will show the details about that file like this. And at times we need less information. So git log one line, this one line flag will tell Git that, okay, I don't want a detailed summary. I just need a one liner for each commit. And then you can also specify the number of commits you want to limit git log to. So if you want to see what happened in the past 5 commits, then you can see that like this. So git log and the last commit. So you can see that like this. And and git revert can be used to undo a commit ID. So this is how you do it. So if you have a file, if you have done something very wrong there, and you want to revert back to the previous version, then you can use git revert and give the ID of the previous commit. So in previously I told you that each commit is associated with a unique ID. So that unique ID can be used to revert back to that version. So obviously, when you revert to a commit, it makes a new commit. So if you have version 2 of WhatsApp here, and you want version 1 back, if you revert back to version 1, then obviously a new commit will be created, and that will be named as a version 3. Whatever the message you want to write and whatever details that comes with it, it stays with the version 3. So it's a kind of add-on to version 2. It will not go back to version 1. So first of all, you make a commit, and then you can see the details about last commit using git log, and then you can copy the commit ID. You can revert back to the previous commit, and yeah, then obviously you can inspect the commits also. And you can type this git help command to get a help page for Git. So it will show you all the commands that you have. So commands like clone, init, and then it shows that what a particular command do. So whenever you find it difficult to find a command, you can use git help and find the command there. Now let's move on to some more features about Git that are very much useful in software development, and it is a valuable asset for every software developer to know. So these things first of all start with branches, and then it moves on to merges, and then rebasing branches. So branches is a very important concept of Git, and without branching, Git is not very much useful, because obviously when you are working on larger projects, then you need to have more, then you are supposed to have a team of developers. You don't have a single developer who knows everything, that he is working on this one thing at a time. So you have multiple developers, and you have all of them are working on different features of the project. So for example, if you have a WhatsApp app developing, and someone would be working on the chat feature, someone would be working on some photograph feature, or someone will be working on the call and video call feature. So these developers would be working simultaneously on a project. And a very common thing is that someone would write some code, and then other person would modify that code according to him, and the third person would modify the same code according to him. So this will create a kind of conflict within the project, and obviously it will very much reduce efficiency of your project. So branching comes to your it becomes your savior at that moment. So in Git, as I told you, that versions are stored one after another. So according to the time that you have committed something, then the versions are one after the another. But in Git, obviously, you have an option to kind of branch it from the main line. So in Git, history isn't a straight line, but it's a kind of a branching story. So it's a very interesting topic. Let's see. So as I told you, in practice, we work on multiple things at a time. So we want to change the scope of everything that we are doing. So if someone is working on one feature, he has a branch for it. If someone is working on one bug fix, he has another branch for him. If someone is working on a release or some publishing thing, then he can have another branch for it. So that it what the other person does, it does not affect other person's work. So obviously good commits are only as good as our branches, because if you are working on a team, if you have if you are regularly committing, then it's very difficult for different people to work on the same code and maintain the uh, like maintain the same code with time. Obviously someone is going to make some changes and the other person is going to modify him accordingly, and then everything is like kind of messed up inside the code. So this is this black dot is supposed to be a commit. So for example, someone made a commit here. So think of it as version 1 of an XYZ application that is building. So and one more developer comes and he wants to work on something or some feature of this application. So this is how he creates a new branch for himself, and then he now works on it. And in each branch is like each branch is kind of like a main branch. So in this branch you can have other commits, and then you can have other branches also coming out from here. So for example, this is the regular flow. This black line is the regular flow of the application that is going on. So it is the main flow, and this yellow line is supposed to be it is supposed to be associated with a single task that is assigned to that developer. So he'll make his new branch, he'll work on that, he'll add some files, he'll commit some files, and obviously that branch will also have some version associated with it. So for example, if you have WhatsApp application and someone is developing the video call feature, so he is not going to develop all the code at once. So what he'll do is he'll first branch the code, branch the version 1, and then he'll add some code, he'll commit the code, and he'll create a version, you can say 1.1 in his own branch, and then he'll continue with the version and he'll keep on committing the changes. So if he's at this third yellow dot and he wants to go back to the first yellow dot, so he can go. That's one. And there can be multiple branches at single time. So if you have multiple developers, you want multiple branches to be made of the same code, then you can do that. And this Git branch command, it is used to list all the branches that the current repository have. So you can use it like Git branch. And Git branch develop, so it creates a new branch, and then you can use just Git branch to see what all branches are there. So currently there are two branches, a master branch and a new branch that you have created. So obviously when you initialize a repository, there is one default branch that holds the main flow of the project. So that branch is called the master branch, and sometimes it is referred to as it is renamed to as the main branch. So main and master, that is just the name of the branch. It doesn't affect anything. In some project you may see that the main branch is master. In some project you may see the main branch is named as main only. And Git branch and the name of the branch, it makes a new branch that is starting from the current commit. So as I showed you, If you want to make this yellow colored branch, then you can use git branch and then name of the branch to make a new branch starting from this particular commit. And the branch splits from the current commit into the current branch. And one thing you have to notice is that when you create a new branch, you don't move to that branch. You stay on your master or your main branch only. Now you need to use git checkout command to move to that branch. So here you are creating a new branch called develop branch. And then you see what all branches you have. You have 2 branches. And then you can use git checkout develop to go to the develop branch. So this ref thing can be it can be a branch name. Also, it can be a commit ID. So we'll see that if it's a commit ID, then what happens. So checkout will change the files in your folder. So for example, if you are on a main branch, then you will have some files associated with the main flow of the project. And then if you go on to an XYZ branch, you might have some more code or some deleted code from there. So the code inside your project folder, it changes accordingly to the according to the what branch you are working on. So what are the steps? So first git branch name, creating a new branch, and then git check out the name of the branch, going to that branch, and then you can make commits inside that branch. Now let's see about merging. So if someone has successfully added a new feature to a project and he wants to bring that feature to the main flow of the project, he can do that using merging. So we just need a way to join and integrate whatever changes we have made in our project in a new branch. So like this black line is the main branch or the master branch, and this yellow line is the another branch that an XYZ developer made. So now he wants to kind of bring that changes from that branch to the main branch. So how he is going to do that? Like this. So it will create a new commit, and inside that new commit, the code from the yellow line is there. So git merge target, it means that the target branch is supposed uh, to be merged to the current branch, whatever the branch you are on right now. So a merge, it can either make a new commit or it can skip some commits and then make a new commit. So this is a merge commit. So you were supposed to be on the second black dot here. And then when you merge this yellow branch into your current branch, it makes a new commit, and then the new commit have all the source code that you had in the yellow branch. And fast forwarding is kind of bringing each commit of this branch to your main branch. So as you can see, you have 3 commits inside the yellow branch. So if you fast forward this branch into your current branch, all 3 commits will come one after another after your current commit in your main branch. And obviously it might happen that let me give you an example. If there is a text file, you have that text file inside the main branch of your project, and then you make a new branch at a point of time. So if that text file contains one line and something written there, and then you make a new branch, and then some person changes the same line, and the person who is working on the main branch, he also changes the same line. So obviously Git is now going to get confused that what actually should it keep. So that gives an arise to something called merge conflict inside a Git repository. So merge conflict is a very common issue, and you need to know that how to handle this. Other than that, it would be a lot of pain for you to work with a team. So for example, if this README file, it has this same line, I added this change in master, no conflicts, and then some person changes it to the second line. So obviously these 2 lines are different, and while merging them, Git will have to take a decision that either to keep the above line or the below line. So it has to keep one of these lines. It cannot keep both, because both are associated with the same line. So so what will Git do when you try to merge your branch into your current branch? It will take you to the text editor to show the changes, and there in the text editor, either you can allow the changes from the branch you are merging to come in, or your changes only to be written on top of that branch. So you need to make a decision that what is the code that you want to keep. So let's see step by step how to merge this. So you can make a commit in a new branch, and then you can commit changing same line in the base. So base is the main branch that you are working on. And then you can use git merge to bring the newly created branch to your base branch. And then you can fix if you have any merge conflicts, then you can fix the conflicts in the given file, and then you can add that file and commit that file. So it happens like this. So at times you can prevent merge conflicts by limiting someone to work on some part of the code only. So it is very rare that both of the developers have to work on the same file. But if it happens, then there is a chance of a merge conflict. But if they work on different files, then there is no no chances of merge conflict until or unless one person deletes the same file and the other person like kind of makes some changes into the same file. Then again the Git has to decide that either to keep these changes or either to just delete the file. So let's see what rebase is. So rebase is used to kind of, you can imagine it as cutting a branch from somewhere and then putting that branch to some other place. It is like this. So see this blue branch. So first this blue branch was starting from this commit number 1 in the main branch. And after you rebase, you put it inside this, you put it after the third commit of the main branch. So this can be understood as a rebase. So it update the base branch with some new commits. So you can use the rebase command to take a branch from somewhere and put it after another commit. So let's see how you do it. Okay, the image is somewhere missing. So basically this transplants the current branch onto the ref commit that you have given. So it rewinds the changes and reapply the changes one by one. So it will start, it will take it from here, it will go to this commit, and then it will make this commit, and then it will make this commit, and so on. So it also obviously you can have merge conflicts here. So for example, there was some XYZ line and it got changed in this commit, but the XYZ line also got changed in this commit. So both of these have a merge conflict. So obviously Git will take you to the text editor. It will show you that, okay, these files are different. Tell me what code do I need to keep and which one to discard. And then it will check from this end to this and like so on. So for example, if this have some lines, if this had some line and you delete these lines and keep the lines from this commit, then it will create another merge conflict here. So it will ask you and so on. So one by one, you need to resolve the conflicts associated to each commit. Okay, and you can abort a rebase process. So it is something that generally is not, rebase is not generally used, but if you want to use it and if you are feeling that, okay, you have done a mistake and this should not have been done, then you can abort the process. So this is Git keeps a record of, Git obviously does not forget that from where it brought the branch. So it will take the branch and put it back to the original place. Okay, so now we move to GitHub. So as I told you, GitHub is kind of a social platform for software developers, and it is a remote place for Git repositories to be placed on. You can sign up at GitHub using this link, and GitHub is an online platform for Git. It's a very nice platform. You can go and explore it here. GitHub is used by mostly every software developer that you have today. And let's see what is the scope of this topic. So we'll make a repository on GitHub. Then we'll discuss something called remote repositories. And then we have this collaborating tools also in GitHub that are very useful while working on it with a team. So let's see what are repositories in GitHub. So we had discussed a Git repository. Now we'll see what is a GitHub repository. So GitHub repository is nothing other than just a Git repository, but it is placed on a server. So it will be available to use 24/7. You can anyone from any place can interact with the Git repository, and he can get the code from there or put some code there in the GitHub repository and like that. So now a GitHub repository basically it acts as a kind of storing place for a currently going project. So it interacts through the site itself. You can go to GitHub website and you can create a repository also there, and then you can interact with the repository with using your command line. And obviously it uses the Git command lines. And let's see. We'll see that how to use it using GitHub, and obviously you can do it using commands also. So GitHub repository comes with a README file to provide a description about your repository. So we'll see the photo here. So this screenshot shows that how a GitHub repository looks. So you have to go to the GitHub website and then you have to create a new repository. And once the repository is created, then you can interact to that repository using your command line. And also you can upload your code after going to the website, and you can also bring code down from there using the website only. So this is how a GitHub repository looks. So while creating a repository on website, you will have something like this. You can give your repository name, some description, and either the repository can be public or a private repository. So a public GitHub repository is available for everyone to view. Everyone can see your code. Everyone can see whatever you have done. A private repository is just limited to you. No one is going to access it until you give a collaborative permission to that person. So generally, if you are building a commercial product, it's a private repository. But if you are working on a personal project or an open source project, it should be public. It is supposed to be public. And you have an option to either add a README file or do not add a README file with it. And you can add a git ignore file. So we have not discussed this git ignore file, but it is kind of a file that have name of other files that are not supposed to be tracked by Git. So if you have some confidential information and you don't want it to be committed version by version, you can add that file the name of that file inside this .git ignore file. So Git will ignore that file as if it was never there. So this is the process how to create a new repository. And once you create a fresh repository, it will look like this. So it will have either HTTPS or SSH link with it. So you can get your HTTPS link from here. You can copy it, and then either you can clone this repository, or inside an existing local repository, you can connect that local repository to this new GitHub repository. So GitHub is kind enough to give you code here itself. So you can git remote add origin. I'll tell you what is the meaning of this command. So git this just tells the command line that whatever you are writing, it is supposed to be associated with the Git program. And then you have remote. So this is a command that is that tells Git that you are working with the remote repository. This add command, it is self-explanatory that it adds the origin branch to the current Git repository, and then you give the link of the remote repository. And this now connects your local repository to your GitHub repository. So from your local repository, now you can push your code into the GitHub repository. So let's talk more about the remote repositories. So as I told you, this git remote add and the name of the branch and then the URL to the repository. So you can give a name. Generally, it's given as origin. So you write git remote add origin and then URL of your remote repository. So it finds a repository on a server. It necessarily does not need to be a server. Obviously, another computer can act as a server. A computer can always act as a server, and you can interact with that computer, and you can also add that as a remote repository. And git fetch it basically takes all information that your remote repository have and syncs your project with the information, like the code that the remote repository has. And then you have this push command. So if you have some code in your local repository, you want to put that code into the remote repository, you can use git push and then remote branch. So this will tell that, okay, take this branch and push it to the remote repository. And once you push it to a remote repository, then from the second time git push remembers that what was the remote repository it has to push it on. So step by step, let's see how to add a remote repository and push your local changes there. First, you add it using git remote add origin and then URL of your remote repository. Then you can type git fetch. What it does, it syncs your local repository with the remote repository, and then you can use git push origin and the name of the branch. This U flag is optional. Either you can have it or not, doesn't matter. And after once you have pushed your changes, then git push also works. It will push your current branch to the origin. And as we discussed before, git clone, it clones your repository and it takes the repository and makes a copy of that repository into your current folder. So we have seen that how to clone a repository from your computer or some other computer to your computer, and this URL can be a URL of a remote repository, and using the remote repository, the repository can be copied to your local system. And then git pull remote branch, it basically kind of takes this branch, finds this branch in the remote repository and pull this branch to your file system. So it gets the changes from remote repository and puts it onto your Git repository, local Git repository. And you can also rebase the branches like Git rebase remote branch. And generally these kind of things are very severe cases that you will need these things. But so let's see how collaboration is done in GitHub. So GitHub is very much famous for the collaborative features that it gives you. So GitHub allows you to create an organization and then add other developers of your team to the organization. So everyone can see GitHub as a central location for keeping the code, and everyone can effectively work on the same project. So, and also GitHub offers an issue tracker and pull request. So if some random person or if someone from your team finds an issue in your project and he wants to add some features to your project, either he can put in an issue there, or he can raise a pull request, and you can view the pull request and merge it to your project. So now you have some additional feature in your current project. So GitHub issues are used to report a bug or discuss about a project, or if someone wants to ask something about your project. So all this can be done using GitHub issues. And yeah, you can create an issue there in this. If so, for example, this file is hosted on GitHub. So this particular slides are hosted on GitHub. So if you want to add some issues to this file, then you can kind of create an issue, and I'll see those issues and I'll resolve it, or I'll get back to you. So that is kind of one-to-one communication between the owner of the repository and some person who finds that issue in my repository. So pull request, it basically organizes the merging process. So if any XYZ random person keep on adding code into my project, then obviously it will get messy. So pull requests are used to I can either take in the pull request or I can just ignore someone's pull request. If someone's if someone's add-on to my project is not necessary or is not good enough, then I can ignore them, or either I can merge the pull request into my repository. So you can see that how this a pull request looks like. So it has some conversation or messages that GitHub gives you a feature with it, and pull request also have some commits that the person has made. And for example, like this person wants to add some part 3 to the example in this book, so he can do it using a pull request to and then you can make a pull request in the website itself. It's pretty much self-explanatory there. You have an option for creating a pull request, and then GitHub guides you through it, because obviously it's not a command line, it's a GUI, so it's easy for you to understand it. So when someone like this, you can create a pull request. So let's see whatever we have seen till now. So we create a commit in a new branch, and then we push that commit to the remote repository, and we then see on pull request on the GitHub repository, and we can create a new pull request, and also we can pull the pull request or not. It depends on the owner. So now we'll uh, we'll see. We are it's almost 11:30, and we are ending this session now. So guys, you will be shared a feedback form, and participation certificate will be awarded only to those people who fill in the feedback form. So make sure that you fill the feedback form, and uh, then you will be given the participation certificates. So now I'm open to any questions. If any one of you have any doubts, then you can ask. Yeah.
Some of the content I was understand.
What?
Some of the content like collaboration, fetch, pull and push I understand. Some of the contents are not. It takes more time. So
Yeah. Git is Git has a very large scope, so everything can't be covered in one single session. But if you have if you want to know anything extra, then you can always reach me. So I'll be sharing my details in the WhatsApp group, so you can either reach me, or if anything is unclear, I can explain it again.
can you send these slides?
Yeah, obviously these slides will be shared with you.
Excuse me. Hello.
Yeah.
Ayush.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, I recently I have worked on Git long before, but recently I again started working on it, and came to know that the whole feature of authenticating a private repository or using a password is purged, and they have brought up a token kind of authentication.
Yeah.
So, I have been added to a private repository of someone else, and I have been added as a collaborator. But then, for example, then if I want to clone that to my local machine, then it asks me for username and password. So, should I give my username and my token which is generated in my account, or anything else?
See, previously what used to happen is that you want to tell your local Git about your username and your password. But since GitHub is more and more, it's focusing on security issues. So now the password thing is kind of changed. So what I am familiar with, that GitHub every time, so it's like a OTP thing. So it generates a token, and then using that token, you can interact with Git. And once you are done, then you can either expire the token or keep it. So it's something I haven't came across that issue before, but you can either you can privately reach out to me, and I might be able to help you with that.
Okay. So, do you have access to your email ID or contact any other company?
My email ID, I'll put my email ID here.
Yeah.
Are you guys able to view?
We can't able to access the chat box.
Okay, so I'll share on the WhatsApp group, or just with the feedback form that you'll receive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys.
In the mail,
What?
you're sharing the feedback form in the mail or chat box or WhatsApp group.
No, not on chat box. It will be on the mail as well and on the WhatsApp group as well. So anytime you have anything regarding Git or either website development, or I'm personally an Android developer, so anything you have regarding that, you can reach me out.
Okay, sure. Next time, certain doubts in the web development or you told the Android development, that time we can ask.
Okay. Okay, guys. So we might wrap this up now. It's 11:40. It's 20 minutes before the expected time. So it's already 1 minute 20, nearly 1 hour 20 minutes. So any questions or anything? I'm still open.
Can you tell about your experience in Microsoft?